The night I found myself standing in my neighbor's basement, gripping a wrench tight while my heart raced in all the wrong ways. I had pictured a completely different kind of evening. I was meant to be back home by 7, eating takeout straight from the box over the kitchen sink, and acting like fixing other folks' houses every day was enough to fill my own life. But at 6:38 my phone buzzed with a message from the woman next door. "Lily, I know this sounds silly, but are you home right now? Water is leaking from somewhere under my stairs." That's how it all began. My name is Owen Carter. I'm 35 years old and I own a small home repair and renovation business in Richmond, Virginia. Nothing too fancy. I handle old houses with tricky wiring, leaky roofs, stubborn plumbing, and customers who claim the issue popped up today even when the damage clearly started years ago. I enjoyed the work because houses made sense to me. You spot the break, follow it back to the cause, repair it properly, and everything holds steady if done right. People were much trickier, especially after my divorce 3 years back. By then, I had built a simple, steady routine that felt safe and mostly quiet. I worked long hours, ran in the mornings, and kept my tools sorted neatly in drawers. I convinced myself that calm was better than any mess. Then Lily Monroe moved into the house next door, and that calm started to feel less solid. She arrived in late spring with a moving truck, a friendly golden retriever named June, and the look of someone who had taken a big brave step and wasn't sure yet if she should celebrate or worry. At 32, she worked from home as an interior designer. Her face had a way of making every little expression feel extra alive. She wasn't flashy or loud, just honest, kind when she wanted to be, and straightforward always. You couldn't mix her up with someone timid. The first week, I helped her wrestle a dining table through her front door after she fought with the angle for ages. The next week, I fixed her porch light. From there, it turned into a regular thing. She borrowed my ladder, I carried her bookshelf inside. She dropped off banana bread as a thank you, though we both knew it was more than that. I joked that it could be both. We slipped into an easy neighbor routine that seemed safe until it wasn't anymore. I knew her favorite coffee. She noticed when I skipped lunch because work ran late. I let June outside once during her long client call. She started sending texts like, "Do you have a wrench for wild emergencies or just the regular kind?" So when her message about the water arrived, I didn't think twice. I picked up my tool bag, walked across the yard, and found her waiting by the side door in leggings, a big gray t-shirt, and socks already wet at the toes. "Please say you're here to rescue me from going broke," she said with a tired smile. "I'm here so you don't have to cry next to your water heater." She let me step inside. Too late. I already did when I heard the sound. The stairs down to the basement were tight, old, and dimly lit. Halfway down, I heard the trouble clearly, a sharp, uneven spray and water slapping against the floor. "Valve shut off?" I asked. "Should be on the left wall." "You think? I'm an interior designer, Owen. I make spaces look nice, not battle water." That pulled a grin from me anyway. At the bottom, I spotted the problem quick. A cracked supply line above the utility sink. Not a total disaster yet, but it could turn into one fast. I closed the valve, stopped the flow, and bent down to check the fitting. Behind me, Lily breathed out long and slow. "You don't know how good it looks when someone just knows what they're doing." I glanced back. That's a risky thing to tell a guy holding channel locks. "Just telling the truth," that was Lily. Words that might sound planned from others came out real from her. I kept working on the pipe. "It's cracked clean through. I can fix it temporary tonight, but I'll swap the piece tomorrow." Tonight works. I'm not ready to hear about replacing sections yet. The basement carried smells of soap, concrete, and wet boxes. Soft rain tapped the small window up near the ceiling. It should have felt far from romantic, but somehow the close space made everything feel more real. She stayed nearby, wanting to see what I did or just trusting me more when she watched my hands. Each time she moved, I noticed the warmth of her so close, the quiet pad of her socks on the floor, her light, clean scent that didn't belong down there. "Flashlight?" I asked. She passed it right over. "Here, thanks. You say that like you didn't expect me to help. I'm trying not to mention the candle you gave me earlier. It was right there. It was for looks. It could still give light." I chuckled. That was her gift. She turned normal moments into something warmer. I wrapped the quick repair and tested the line. It held good for now. "Okay," I said. "Turn the water on slow." She did, and nothing leaked. No spray, no hiss. I relaxed. "You're good until tomorrow." Lily gave a real smile then, the kind that lit up her whole face with relief. "Thank you." I stood up and suddenly noticed how small the space felt between us. She was closer than expected, maybe just a step away. Close enough that one small lean would change everything from neighbor help to something much riskier. I set the wrench on the sink to make a little room. Of course she noticed. Her eyes moved from my hand to my face and her look shifted, still kind and playful but deeper now, more careful. Then she stepped nearer, not touching but making it clear it was a choice. Owen, she said softly. I met her eyes. The basement grew quiet like the house itself was listening, her voice lowered. Can I ask you something? I should have answered easy and light. But instead I said, depends how risky the question is. One side of her mouth curved up. She looked straight at me. Are you trying this hard not to kiss me? Or am I imagining that? I looked at her and told the truth. No, you're not imagining it. Lily stayed still, so did I. The low ceiling, concrete floor, faint smell of damp cardboard and metal. All of it pressed in while she stood near enough for me to notice her breathing change. So you're trying not to kiss me, she said quietly. Yes, one corner of her mouth lifted. That sounds painful. You have no idea. She let out a soft laugh that faded fast. What came next was pure relief, like she had feared getting it all wrong. I placed the flashlight on the sink. Lily, why not then? It was a direct question but fair, so I answered straight. Because you're my neighbor, because I like living next to you. Because if I kiss you and it goes wrong, I still see your recycling bins every Thursday as a reminder. And because I'm not casual about you. That shifted her face. Not a big change, but the air between us grew heavier. Not casual, she repeated. No. Lily glanced down briefly, then back up. Good, that single word hit strong. Before I could ask more, she took a slow breath. I asked because if I didn't, I was going to lose my mind. I smiled a little. That's nice to hear. It's annoying, she said. You fix things here, you remember my coffee, you check on me during storms because June gets scared. And every time we get to a moment like this, she waved lightly between us, you act like you need official permission. I probably do, she laughed again, then spoke softer. I just needed to know I wasn't alone in feeling it. You'd think that would make it simpler. It didn't, it made it real. I stepped closer, near enough that one wrong or right move would cross the line. You're not the only one, I said. Lily looked at my mouth, then my eyes. Okay, the way she said it nearly undid me. I wanted to kiss her right then, badly, but I held back. We should probably head upstairs before your basement turns this into something we can't walk away from. She stared for a second, then laughed quietly. You are a deeply frustrating man, I've been told. We went upstairs and somehow the kitchen felt even more alive with tension, maybe worse. Basements had pipes to focus on. Kitchens had counters to lean on and too much space to think. Lily poured wine for both of us without asking, handed me a glass and leaned against the island. So, she said, now what, now what? That was the big question. I was still figuring out how honest to get when she set her glass down. Actually, there's something else. Her tone shifted enough that I stood a bit straighter. What? She crossed her arms loosely, not quite defensive but guarded. I got an offer this morning. For what? A design firm in Boston. She held my eyes. Senior creative-led, big project, better money, bigger clients. The kind of thing I told myself I moved here to stop chasing. I stared at her. This was not where I thought the evening was going. When were you planning to mention that? She gave me a tired little smile. Maybe never, maybe after I decided. Maybe after I pretended I wasn't waiting to see whether there was any reason to stay. That hit harder than it should have. You'd leave, I asked. Lily's face softened. I don't know, a beat. That's why I asked you the question. The kitchen went quiet. Rain tapped at the window over the sink. June padded in from the hallway, circled once near Lily's feet, then settled like she understood something important was happening and wanted front row seats. I looked at Lily for a long second, then I asked, when do you have to answer? Tomorrow. Of course, because apparently my life had decided normal pacing was overrated. She tried for a lighter tone and didn't quite manage it. I know, very healthy timing, very mature. I set my wine down. Lily, what? If I kiss you right now, is this because you got a job offer and your basement flooded and everything feels dramatic? Her eyes searched mine. No, then what is it? Her voice dropped. It's because I've wanted you to for months. That did it. I crossed the space between us, touched her face with one hand and gave her just enough time to stop me. She didn't, so I kissed her, not reckless, not tentative either. The kind of kiss that tells the truth all at once. Her hand closed lightly on the front of my shirt, and for one disorienting second the whole world narrowed to warm kitchen light, rain on the glass. And the fact that I had spent months trying not to do exactly this. When we pulled back, she was still close enough that I could feel her breath. Well, she whispered, that seems inadequate. It's all I've got right now. I rested my forehead lightly against hers and let out a breath that sounded suspiciously like a laugh. Then Lily said the sentence that made the whole thing complicated again. Owen, if I stay, I need it to be for the right reason. I looked at her. Her fingers were still curled in my shirt, and suddenly I understood that the kiss had not solved the problem. It had only made the answer matter more. I didn't answer immediately. That was the first useful thing I did, because the selfish answer was easy. Stay. Stay because your kitchen feels better with me in it. Stay because June already treats my porch like shared property. Stay because I finally kissed you, and I don't want the first honest thing between us to become a goodbye scene by tomorrow. But Lily deserved better than the selfish answer. So I stepped back just enough to look at her clearly. You can't stay for me, I said. Her expression shifted. Not in disappointment exactly, more like she had expected that answer and still hated hearing it. I know. No, I said gently. I mean it. If Boston is the thing you want, then you take it. I'm not going to become the reason you shrink your life and call it romance. That one landed. Her hand fell from my shirt. For half a second I thought I'd ruined it. Then she looked at me with something softer than before. Do you know how rare it is, she said, for someone to want you and not immediately ask you to make your world smaller around them? I didn't know what to say to that, so I told her the truth. I learned the hard way what it feels like when love turns into a cage. Lily's face changed. She knew pieces of my divorce, not all of it, enough to know I didn't talk about it unless I had to. She wanted me smaller, she asked quietly. My ex. I leaned against the counter and looked down for a second. Not at first. At first it was compromise, then it was practicality. Then every choice I made that wasn't about the marriage became a problem to manage. I smiled without humor. By the end, I was asking permission to be tired. Lily didn't interrupt. That was one of the reasons I liked her. She let silence do its job. I don't want to be that man to you, I said. And I don't want you waking up 6 months from now resenting me because you turned down something important after one flooded basement and one very overdue kiss. Her mouth curved faintly. Very overdue, extremely. That got a real smile out of her. Good. Then she sighed and looked toward the window. The stupid thing is, I don't even know if I want Boston. Then what do you want? She laughed once softly, like the question was too simple and too big. I want to stop treating my life like a reaction to the last man who made me feel stupid. I stayed still. She looked back at me. I moved here because my engagement fell apart and I wanted quiet. Then quiet started feeling like healing. Then this house started feeling like mine. Then you started being. She shook her head, searching for the word. You, that sounds suspiciously like blame. It is a little bit blame. Fair, she smiled, but her eyes were bright now. The offer is good, she said. But when they called, I didn't feel excited first. I felt tired, like I was being handed a more impressive version of a life I'm not sure I want anymore. That mattered. I could hear it in her voice. This wasn't about choosing me over Boston. It was about choosing herself over momentum. Before I could answer, June stood, trotted to the basement door, and barked once. We both jumped. Lily groaned. If that pipe is leaking again, I'm selling the house to raccoons. I grabbed my flashlight. Let's check. We went back downstairs together, and weirdly that helped. The air cooled. The tension shifted. The practical world came back. Pipe, valve, concrete, tools, water stains. The patch held no leak. Lily crouched beside me, peering at the repair. So it's safe for tonight, she looked at me. That sounds familiar. I glanced at her. She wasn't talking about the pipe. I set the flashlight down. Then tomorrow we do the permanent fix. Her smile was small but real. Still talking about the pipe? Mostly. Mostly is dangerous. I'm aware. We stayed down there a minute longer than necessary. Both of us looking at the patched line like it had somehow become a metaphor too obvious to ignore. Then Lily said, I'm going to call Boston in the morning. I nodded. And I'm going to ask if the role can be remote for the first 6 months with travel twice a month. That surprised me. Can they do that? Maybe, maybe not, she stood. But if the job only works if I tear up the first life that has felt like mine in years, then maybe it's not as perfect as it looks. I felt something warm settle in my chest. Not relief exactly, respect. That sounds like the right question, she looked at me. You're annoyingly steady. I hide panic with posture. I know. We went upstairs again, and this time the kitchen didn't feel like a cliff edge. It felt like a room after a storm when the power has not fully come back, but the worst part is over. Lily walked me to the side door. Not because she wanted me to leave, because we both knew tonight had already given us enough to be careful with. At the door, she looked up at me. Are we pretending the kiss didn't happen until after my phone call tomorrow? No, good, we're respecting the fact that it happened. Her expression softened. That was an unfairly good sentence. I do have moments. She leaned up and kissed me again, shorter this time, still enough to ruin my sleep. When she pulled back, she whispered, "Permanent fix tomorrow." I smiled. Permanent fix tomorrow. Then I crossed the yard in the rain thinking about pipes, choices, second chances, and the terrifying possibility that the right kind of love doesn't ask you to stay. It helps you figure out where you actually want to be. The next morning I was in Lily's basement at 8:00 with copper pipe, fittings, a torch, and the very inconvenient memory of her kissing me by the side door. She came down 10 minutes later carrying 2 coffees and wearing an oversized sweatshirt, her hair tied badly on top of her head. "You look serious," she said. "I'm handling pressurized water." Still talking about the pipe? I looked over my shoulder, mostly. She smiled into her coffee. That smile made the basement feel warmer than it had any right to. But we were different in daylight. Not colder, just clearer. The kind of clear that comes after a night where 2 people say too much to go back but not enough to be reckless. "Boston called," she said. I set the wrench down, and they said no to fully remote. I nodded slowly, trying not to let my face do anything selfish. But she continued, "They offered a consulting contract instead. 3 months, 2 trips up there. No relocation." I looked at her then, really looked. "And what did you say?" I said I'd think about it. She leaned against the old workbench, both hands around the cup. Then I hung up and realized I already had. My pulse shifted. "Lily, I'm not staying because of one kiss," she said, reading me before I could object. "I'm not staying because you fixed my pipe or because you're annoyingly good at being steady. I'm staying because when I imagined packing this house, leaving June's muddy paw prints on that porch, giving up my clients here, my garden plans, my stupid little routines." She looked around the basement, then back at me. "It felt like leaving myself again." That was the answer, not romantic enough for a movie poster maybe, better than that, real. I stood and wiped my hands on a rag. "Then I'm glad, you're just glad." I took one step closer. "I'm extremely glad." Her mouth curved. "Better." Then she looked at the patch pipe behind me. "So, what happens now? Now I fix this properly. And after that I take you to dinner. A real date, yes, no basement emergencies, none planned. No dramatic job offers, please. Don't schedule one," she laughed. And this time when I kissed her, it wasn't a crisis kiss. It wasn't a flooded basement kiss or a don't leave yet kiss. It was slower, simpler. A kiss that belonged to the morning after the storm, not the storm itself. When we pulled apart, June barked upstairs like she had opinions. Lily sighed. "She's going to be unbearable. She learned from you. Careful, I still haven't paid your invoice." That afternoon the new pipe held. No hiss, no drip, no hidden leak waiting to ruin the ceiling. Lily stood beside me at the bottom of the stairs, arms folded, looking at the clean repair like it meant more than plumbing. "Permanent fix," she said softly. "For the pipe." She looked at me mostly. Our first date was that Friday, nothing fancy. A small Thai place with crooked tables, good food, and a waitress who somehow knew we were nervous before we did. Lily told me about the first house she ever designed. I told her more about my divorce than I had told anyone in years. Not because she pulled it out of me. Because for once talking didn't feel like giving someone ammunition. After dinner, we walked home through warm evening rain. And when we reached the split between our yards, she didn't go straight inside. She stood there under the porch light and said, "I like that I can go home and still be close to you." That one stayed with me, because that was what we built after that, not urgency. Not a life made smaller, a life close enough to choose every day. 3 months later, she took the Boston consulting contract and came home from each trip with stories, tired eyes, and the same relief when June barreled toward her at the door. 6 months later, I rebuilt her basement shelves, and she redesigned my kitchen because according to her, "Your cabinets are emotionally hostile." A year later, our yards had one shared garden between them because neither of us could remember whose idea it was to stop pretending the fence mattered. We didn't rush moving in, that was important. We had both lived through love that asked for too much too fast and then called the damage compromise, so we took our time. Morning coffee on her porch, dinner at my place, June sleeping wherever she wanted, which was usually exactly where she was most in the way. Then one ordinary Sunday, Lily stood in my kitchen, opened the wrong drawer for the third time and said, "This is ridiculous." "What is?" "I have 2 kitchens and only one life," so she moved in the next month. Not because she had nowhere else to go, because she knew exactly where she wanted to be. And every now and then, when rain hit the basement window and the old house made its settling noises, she'd look at me and say, "Remember when I asked if you were trying not to kiss me?" And I'd say, "I was trying very hard." Then she'd smile like she still liked knowing that. "What would you have done if you were fixing the pipes in your neighbor's basement?" and she stepped too close and asked if you were trying not to kiss her. And have you ever had one ordinary favor turn into the moment you realized someone had quietly become part of your life? Tell me your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.